The next morning, Earth awoke to a sky filled with enormous ships. The alien fleet had moved closer, arranging itself into more threatening patterns. They orbited the planet like predators surrounding prey, their shields glowing with a cold alien light. Yet on Earth, the mood remained strangely calm. People watched, not in terror but in fascination and quiet amusement. From observation stations scattered across the globe, scientists monitored every movement. Dr. Lena Rao tapped her fingers against the console, her eyes scanning complex simulations of the fleet's maneuvers. They move in patterns, yes, but patterns are predictable, she said. Humans, on the other hand, we are not predictable. That is our advantage. On the surface, cities buzzed with preparation. Not preparation for surrender, but preparation for clever resistance. Engineers worked in labs and garages, building drones and satellites designed to interact with the fleet's technology. Not with violence, but with intelligence. Entire neighborhoods turned rooftops and parks into observation posts, scanning the sky and transmitting signals that the aliens could detect. Meanwhile, the aliens tested humanity's reactions. Massive energy pulses shot across space, powerful enough to obliterate an asteroid. Drones moved at incredible speeds, mapping the planet and scanning for weaknesses. The alien ships rotated, producing enormous shadow patterns across Earth, as if to intimidate every person below. And humans did the unexpected. In space, human engineers launched swarms of small reflective drones. They were inexpensive and simple, yet astonishingly effective. When the alien energy beam struck them, they scattered the light in multiple directions, creating dazzling displays that filled the sky with colors and shapes the fleet had never seen. The beams missed their intended targets entirely, bouncing harmlessly off the tiny drones. Children in cities pointed and laughed at the bright lights, shouting guesses about what the fleet would do next. Teenagers projected holograms that copied the alien ship formations, confusing sensors with duplicate images. Farmers in rural towns turned old communication dishes into signal reflectors, bouncing harmless energy waves back into space. On the largest alien vessel, Admiral Korath's patience was fraying. "Why do they do this?" he asked. His voice carried tension, disbelief, and irritation. "We have shown them our strength. Every other species would cower, and yet they manipulate our displays and laugh at us," Lieutenant Vorath replied carefully. "It appears they are not afraid. They anticipate our actions and respond with clever countermeasures. They are resilient, resilient." Korath repeated the word in his mind. It sounded almost alien in its meaning. These humans were not just surviving. They were turning the fleet's intimidation into a spectacle of ingenuity. On Earth, President Martinez appeared on a global broadcast. He addressed the world calmly, projecting confidence without arrogance. "They came to intimidate us," he said, "and we have shown them that fear does not define us. We are humans. We face the unknown with courage, creativity, and intelligence." Engineers, scientists, and ordinary citizens took his words to heart. Teams worked tirelessly, coordinating efforts across continents. Satellites sent signals designed to confuse sensors. Algorithms predicted fleet movements and suggested playful counteractions. Drones mimicked alien shapes and even appeared to dance in space, moving unpredictably. The aliens attempted escalation. One ship fired a pulse that could have destroyed a small city if it had hit the planet. But human engineers redirected it using simple reflective surfaces, sending the energy harmlessly into orbit. The pulse exploded in a brilliant flash of light resembling fireworks. Children cheered. Adults recorded the moment for news feeds and history archives. Korath's officers began to show doubt. "They are amusing themselves while facing the full might of our fleet," one said cautiously. "How is this possible?" "Perhaps it is not foolishness," Korath answered slowly. "Perhaps it is a strategy. They are turning our strength into confusion. Their laughter is not mockery. It is a weapon." On the ground, humans continued to experiment with clever tactics. Scientists deployed drones that projected holographic cities across the planet, making the alien sensors believe the population was much larger and more technologically advanced than it was. Traffic lights, neon signs, and citywide lighting systems were synchronized to mimic energy pulses, creating patterns that looked as complex as the alien formations themselves. Even nature became part of the defense. Birds guided by subtle signals from satellites formed large shapes in the sky. Swarms of insects moved in orchestrated patterns. Rivers reflected sunlight at angles that created optical illusions for the fleet's sensors. Humans found beauty and strategy in everything around them. On the alien vessels, frustration grew. Lieutenant Vorith reported anomalies in the fleet's calculations. Their actions are erratic, he said. But there is intelligence in the chaos. They are using creativity we cannot model. Korath paced the observation deck, his thoughts turning over and over. Every tactic the fleet had used against other species failed here. Patterns that intimidated others were irrelevant. Weapons designed to demonstrate superiority had been turned into light shows. Even the fleet's attempts at communication were met with humor and clever responses. I do not understand them, Korath admitted quietly. They are not just unpredictable, they are inventive. And inventive they were. By midday, humans had launched the Mirror Project. Using a network of satellites and drones, they created holographic duplicates of alien vessels, making it appear that the fleet had doubled in size. The aliens, observing from space, were momentarily confused. They recalculated positions, adjusted shields, and attempted to identify real targets. Every adjustment was anticipated and countered by human ingenuity. Children across the world laughed at their holographic duplicates, calling them space twins. Adults documented the success, noting how a small, creative solution had disrupted the most advanced fleet in the galaxy. Korath called an emergency council. This species, they do not react as expected. Every attempt to intimidate has failed. They anticipate, adapt, and even entertain themselves while doing so. How can we respond to such cunning? An officer suggested restraint. Perhaps observation, not confrontation. They are unique. They may not be dangerous in the traditional sense, but they are anomalous. We cannot predict their next move. Korath's expression softened slightly. Observation, yes, but we must remain cautious. Humans are unpredictable, clever, and fearless. We are learning. They are not like any species we have faced. Their strength lies not in weapons, but in intelligence, creativity, and spirit. On Earth, the laughter never ceased. People shared videos, coded messages, and jokes across global networks, demonstrating unity and confidence. Children played games where they guessed fleet maneuvers. Scientists recorded every anomaly and shared theories on how humans could continue to adapt. By the evening, humans had proven something remarkable. They could face the most advanced fleet in history without fear, without surrender, and without panic. The alien displays of power had been turned into a stage for human ingenuity. Every energy pulse, every maneuver, every attempt at intimidation became an opportunity to show skill, creativity, and courage. President Martinez spoke again to the world, this time with pride and quiet humor. They came to intimidate us. We responded with imagination. Today we have not only survived, but we have shown that fear does not control us. Humanity's greatest weapons are intelligence, creativity, and unity. And yes, a good laugh. Across the galaxy, Korath recorded this response. The council debated the human species with new respect. They are different, one officer said. We cannot predict them. They are not merely surviving. They are thriving against our demonstration of power. Different? Korath repeated. They are extraordinary. They are humans, and we must respect that. Perhaps they are not a threat in the conventional sense, but they are remarkable. Back on Earth, the night sky glimmered with drones, holograms, and reflections. Children slept with dreams of space twins and alien light shows. Adults recorded the events for history, knowing that humanity had survived its first true test on a cosmic stage. The fleet continued to orbit, but its intimidation had failed. Humans had shown that courage was not fearlessness alone, but the ability to adapt, laugh, and act with intelligence. The first day of human response had ended not in terror, but in celebration. Humanity had proven that even in the face of the galaxy's most advanced fleet, they were clever, united, and unafraid. And somewhere in the vastness of space, the aliens began to wonder what other surprises this unpredictable species had in store. The first chapter of humanity's cosmic story had not ended in conquest or defeat. It had begun with laughter, intelligence, and ingenuity, and the universe would soon learn that when humans faced the impossible, they did not cower. They responded with wit, skill, and determination. Days passed since the alien fleet had first arrived. Earth remained calm, yet the planet was buzzing with activity. The humans had turned observation, research, and communication into tools of creativity. Every attempt by the aliens to intimidate only inspired more ingenious responses. But now, the fleet's commanders decided that subtlety was no longer enough. They would confront humanity directly. On the largest vessel, Admiral Korath convened the council. The humans were clever, unpredictable, and unafraid. Every display of alien power had been met with laughter and clever countermeasures. "We have tested their patience," Korath said. "It is time to escalate. We must show them the true strength of our fleet, and we must observe their response carefully." A delegation of alien leaders prepared to descend to Earth in advanced shuttles. Their plan was not yet aggressive, but their presence would demonstrate authority. The aliens had studied countless species, but humans remained enigmatic. They had survived, adapted, and even enjoyed the challenge. This direct approach would force the humans to reveal their true nature. On Earth, the news spread quickly. Alien representatives were coming. Cities prepared to welcome or confront the delegation. But humans did not panic. Instead, they organized displays of intellect and creativity. Scientists, engineers, and artists worked together to create something entirely new. A demonstration of human capability that combined art, technology, and ingenuity. As the shuttles descended into Earth's atmosphere, crowds gathered to watch. Children waved homemade flags, and adults pointed out patterns of light designed to confuse sensors and trackers. The aliens expected fear. They expected submission. Instead, they were met with laughter, applause, and careful coordination. The first shuttle landed in a vast open field. A human delegation approached, not with weapons, but with open gestures of curiosity and intelligence. President Martinez and top scientists stood ready to meet the aliens. Cameras captured every moment, broadcasting to the entire planet and transmitting to the fleet above. Admiral Korath's envoy stepped forward, projecting authority and power. "Humans," he began, his voice deep and commanding. "We have come to demonstrate the might of the galaxy. You are a small, fragile species. Submit and we may grant you survival. Resist and face consequences beyond your imagination." President Martinez smiled calmly. "We appreciate your visit," he said. "We understand that your fleet is impressive, but we are humans. We do not submit out of fear. We respond with intelligence, creativity, and sometimes humor." The aliens were taken aback. Even with their advanced communication systems, they could not detect aggression or weakness in the humans' response. Instead, they felt confidence in something deeper, curiosity. To further demonstrate, humans began a presentation unlike anything the aliens had seen. Drones flew in complex patterns above the field, forming moving holograms of human achievements, energy networks, robotic innovations, scientific diagrams, and patterns inspired by art and music. Every movement was precise yet unpredictable, combining logic with creativity in ways the aliens had never encountered. The aliens attempted to respond with their own displays of power. Energy pulses and sensor waves spread across the sky, but humans had already calculated safe countermeasures. Reflective drones diverted energy harmlessly, while holographic patterns overwhelmed sensors, creating confusion instead of fear. The display was breathtaking, not just for humans, but for the alien delegation. One officer whispered to Korath, "They are not just clever. They are innovative. They anticipate our moves and respond in ways we cannot model." "How is this possible?" Korath frowned. "It is not just intelligence. It is creativity. They are unpredictable because they invent solutions. They do not merely react, they adapt, and they do so with confidence. We must observe carefully." On Earth, children and adults alike were part of the demonstration. Virtual reality projections allowed people to participate in simulations that interacted with alien technology. Teams of engineers created devices that subtly modified signals from the fleet, producing harmless but astonishing effects. Lights danced across the sky, energy waves turned into cascading holograms, and small drones played with alien sensors like a cat with a toy. The aliens realized that humans were not only resilient, they were fearless in their curiosity. Every escalation was met not with panic, but with clever adaptation. The fleet's largest weapon systems were turned into harmless light shows by the humans' ingenuity. And every time the humans laughed, Korath's council began to argue. "They are not intimidated by our power," one said. "They turn our might into art." "They are not submitting," another officer added. "They are teaching us something." Korath's eyes narrowed. They are showing us that strength is not only measured in weapons but in intelligence, unity, and creativity. They may be small, but their spirit is immense. This is dangerous in ways we do not understand. The humans continued to innovate. Using quantum AI networks, they analyzed fleet movements in real time and predicted possible maneuvers. Satellites projected optical illusions, creating the impression of multiple Earths. Holograms mimicked alien ships, and drones simulated attacks that were entirely harmless yet convincing. Every human action was deliberate, turning confusion into a tool of defense. Children called it the light game, and adults called it strategy. The aliens could not distinguish between the two. Every attempt to intimidate was met with a combination of laughter, problem-solving, and imagination. One evening, a particularly ambitious alien officer decided to test the humans further. A massive energy wave, far larger than any before, was aimed at a deserted section of the planet. The humans, however, had anticipated the attack. Using a network of satellites, drones, and reflective surfaces, they diverted the energy harmlessly into orbit, creating a spectacle that looked like a giant aurora dancing across the sky. The children cheered, and scientists logged the success. The humans had not only neutralized the threat, they had created something beautiful. The aliens, observing from their ships, were stunned. For the first time, they questioned their assumptions. "They are fearless," Forth whispered. "They do not flee, they do not panic, and they do not beg. They turn danger into creativity." Korath nodded slowly. "They are beyond our models. Every species we have faced reacts predictably. They do not. Their strength is their spirit, and their spirit cannot be measured in weapons or shields." Back on Earth, the laughter and creativity continued. People worked together, turning science into art and art into strategy. They demonstrated that intelligence and imagination could be as powerful as the fleet's massive technology. Humans had turned the challenge into a game, a test of ingenuity that revealed the essence of their species: curiosity, creativity, and courage. As the day ended, Korath gathered the council for one final observation. "This species is unlike any other," he said. "We have demonstrated our might, and yet they do not fear us. They adapt, they invent, they create, and in their laughter, we see something we have rarely encountered: confidence without arrogance, courage without recklessness." The aliens realized that humanity's unpredictability was a weapon in itself. Even without physical aggression, the humans had demonstrated an ability to survive, adapt, and impress. The fleet's power had been neutralized by intelligence, humor, and creativity, a combination the galaxy had rarely seen. On Earth, people went to sleep under the glow of the fleet's ships, no longer fearing, only wondering what the next day would bring. Children dreamed of flying holograms and playful drones, while adults planned the next clever response. Humanity had passed the first real test against an advanced alien fleet, not by fear, not by force, but by ingenuity and spirit. And somewhere in the vastness of space, the aliens began to understand something new. Humans were not just a species. They were a force of creativity and courage, and their laughter was more powerful than any weapon in the galaxy. The challenge had begun. But humans were ready. Days turned into a week since the alien fleet had arrived, and something extraordinary was happening. The fleet that had intended to intimidate humanity was now forced into observation. The humans, clever and unafraid, had turned every display of power into a demonstration of ingenuity. But now, the aliens began to realize that intelligence alone was not the only aspect of humanity they had to understand. Admiral Korath convened the Fleet Council. The humans' responses had gone beyond technology and strategy. They were now showing aspects of culture, teamwork, humor, and creativity that the aliens had not anticipated. "They are different," Korath said, pacing slowly. "They are not just inventive. They are curious. They seek to understand, to create, to explore. This is unlike any species we have encountered." Lieutenant Vorith nodded, a trace of awe in his voice. "They adapt in ways we cannot predict, and yet their actions are coordinated. They are not just clever, they are united. Perhaps their greatest strength is their social cohesion. On Earth, humans began a new phase of interaction. Scientists, engineers, artists, and ordinary citizens coordinated efforts not to attack, but to communicate with the aliens in ways that went beyond mere displays. Holograms projected human achievements. space exploration missions, advanced robotics, and renewable energy systems. Music, dance, and art were incorporated into drone formations. Humans wanted the aliens to see not just their strength, but their culture. Children were the first to take part. Using small drones and holographic projectors, they created moving images of humans helping each other, exploring planets and working together. The fleet above detected these signals, and for the first time, alien officers paused in silence. Something about the innocence, creativity, and optimism of humanity was unfamiliar. The alien delegation that had landed on Earth observed with fascination. They saw humans laughing at small mishaps during demonstrations, helping one another when mistakes were made, and improvising solutions instantly. These humans did not fear failure. Instead, they learned from it and turned it into progress. President Martinez spoke during a live broadcast to the delegation and the world. "We welcome you to our planet," he said. "We are humans. Our strength comes from creativity, cooperation, and curiosity. We do not wish to fight you, but we will always find clever ways to survive and thrive. That is who we are." The aliens were silent. They had expected defiance, cunning, or submission, but not this combination of openness, intelligence, and humor. They began asking questions. How did humans develop these skills? How did they work together so efficiently? Why did they respond with laughter instead of fear? Scientists on Earth began to answer cautiously. They demonstrated simple principles of engineering, mathematics, and teamwork. They showed examples of humans working in space stations, laboratories, and communities, solving problems that required cooperation and creativity. Every demonstration was designed to be harmless yet illuminating. One of the alien observers, Lieutenant Voreth, whispered to Korath, "Their intelligence is remarkable. But more than that, they are joyful in their creativity. They approach challenges with enthusiasm. That is what makes them unpredictable." Korath nodded. "It is not just strategy, it is spirit. They are not afraid, and they are not limited by rigid patterns of thought. They adapt, they invent, and they remain optimistic. This is dangerous in ways our technology cannot measure." The humans continued to push the boundaries of the fleet's understanding. Holographic simulations projected entire human civilizations, complete with bustling cities, transport systems, and space exploration networks. Drones demonstrated problem-solving by moving obstacles, creating bridges, and forming complex shapes in three-dimensional space. Even the simplest acts, a child flying a small drone, a farmer redirecting sunlight with mirrors, demonstrated ingenuity that astounded the aliens. Above Earth, the fleet's officers began debating quietly. "They are cooperative among themselves," one said. "Yet individually they are unpredictable. We cannot anticipate their moves using traditional tactics. How do we respond?" "They are not an enemy in the traditional sense," another replied. "They are an anomaly. We must study them further." Korath's expression was serious. "Study them, yes, but do not underestimate them. Their strength is not in weapons or shields, but in intellect, adaptability, and spirit. They may be small, but their potential is immense." Humans did not attempt to intimidate the aliens. Instead, they invited them to observe, to participate, and to learn. Engineers demonstrated energy networks that powered entire cities using clean sources. Scientists showed how space stations were built with collaboration and precision. Artists displayed holographic murals and kinetic sculptures that moved in patterns inspired by mathematics and nature. The aliens began to experiment in return. They attempted to mimic human drone patterns and holographic displays, but their results were rigid and mechanical. Humans observing this offered subtle guidance. "Try moving unpredictably," one engineer suggested. "Use patterns that change in real time. Make decisions based on creativity, not just calculation." The aliens attempted again. The results were better, but still lacked the improvisational spirit of humanity. They realized that humans' unpredictability was not random. It was intelligent and adaptive, born from experience, cooperation, and curiosity. By the end of the week, the aliens began to see humans as more than a species. They saw potential allies, or at least a species worthy of study and respect. The humans' laughter, optimism, and ingenuity had not only survived the initial intimidation, but had fundamentally challenged the fleet's assumptions about intelligence and strength. In private, Korath admitted to his council, "We have underestimated them, not in weapons, not in power, but in spirit. Their strength lies in their creativity, cooperation, and courage. We have much to learn from them and perhaps much to respect. On Earth, humanity continued its displays with a mix of humor and intelligence. They created new challenges for themselves and for the fleet. Puzzles, simulations, and games that required collaboration and problem-solving. Children raced drones through obstacle courses. Scientists coordinated holographic displays across continents, and engineers modified satellites to create breathtaking illusions in the sky. The aliens observed, fascinated. Every time they attempted to replicate human creativity, they failed. Even with superior technology, the human spirit and ingenuity could not be duplicated. For the first time, the fleet realized that strength was not only measured in firepower, it could also be measured in imagination, teamwork, and courage. President Martinez addressed the world and the alien delegation one final time during this phase. We have shown you our capabilities, but more importantly, we have shown you who we are. Humans face challenges with courage, intelligence, and humor. We cooperate, we innovate, and we adapt. And when the impossible comes, we respond with creativity, not fear. The aliens were silent. They had never encountered a species so fearless in the face of the unknown, so united in spirit and so joyful in action. They realized that humans' laughter was not just amusement. It was confidence, ingenuity, and a reflection of their resilience. Korath finally spoke to his officers. We have learned something remarkable. This species cannot be measured by conventional means. They are strong not because of weapons, but because of intellect, courage, and creativity. They are humans, and in them, we see something extraordinary. Humans continued to engage with the fleet, demonstrating subtle and clever solutions to challenges. They showed that even when faced with advanced technology, they could adapt and innovate. The aliens began to question their initial assumptions about dominance and submission. The humans' behavior suggested that intelligence, cooperation, and creativity could rival even the most advanced technology in the galaxy. By the end of Part 4, a profound understanding had begun to form. The aliens no longer saw humans as a species to intimidate. They saw them as a species to study, to learn from, and perhaps to respect. Humans had survived the first test of intelligence and courage, not through force, but through unity, creativity, and spirit. The galaxy would take note. Humanity was not just resilient. Humanity was extraordinary. The alien fleet had lingered for weeks observing humanity with a mixture of curiosity, frustration, and admiration. What had begun as a mission to intimidate had transformed into an unprecedented lesson in human resilience, creativity, and ingenuity. Every maneuver, every display, and every attempt at showing power had been met with laughter, clever solutions, and cooperation that baffled even the most advanced alien minds. On Earth, people went about their lives with a new sense of pride. Children designed drones that moved unpredictably across the skies. Scientists developed new ways to visualize data, turning complex computations into moving patterns of light and color. Artists worked with engineers to create displays that were both beautiful and functional. Every activity became a celebration of human spirit and capability. In the command deck of the largest alien vessel, Admiral Korath convened his officers for a final discussion. This species, he said, his voice quieter than usual, is extraordinary. They are not intimidated by our fleet, nor are they reckless. They adapt, innovate, and even enjoy the challenge. Their spirit is unlike any we have seen. Lieutenant Vorath nodded. We have observed them for weeks. Their intelligence is remarkable, but what strikes me most is their creativity and unity. They respond to danger with laughter and problem-solving, not fear. That is a combination we cannot match with weapons alone. Korath looked out at Earth, glowing under the fleet's observation. Cities shone with artificial lights, and above them, drones created patterns of energy and color. Humans had transformed every attempt at intimidation into an interactive display of ingenuity. It is time, he said, to depart. But the universe will not forget this species. As the fleet prepared to leave, humans organized one final display, not of defense, not of retaliation, but of welcome and friendship. Satellites and drones created intricate holographic messages, spelling out words and images of peace and creativity. Children released small drones in coordinated patterns, forming shapes that represented Earth, human families, and even the alien ships themselves. President Martinez addressed the world, and through broadcast channels, the alien delegation. We thank you for your presence, he said. We have demonstrated who we are, humans. Our strength is not in fear, aggression, or dominance, but in creativity, cooperation, and courage. May our paths meet again in curiosity and friendship, not conflict. The alien delegates who had once expected submission now looked on in awe. Their sensors had recorded every human action, and their minds had calculated, but could not fully predict, the remarkable adaptability and ingenuity of this species. They had come to demonstrate power, but they were leaving with a new understanding. Humans were extraordinary. On Earth, celebrations erupted, not just for survival, but for achievement. Communities gathered to watch the fleet depart. Children waved at the ships and adults reflected on what had happened. Humans had faced one of the most powerful fleets in the galaxy, and had emerged not just unscathed, but respected. Their courage, intelligence, and humor had transformed a potential threat into an opportunity to shine. The aliens departed quietly, their fleet slowly moving toward the edges of the solar system. Communications intercepted by Earth's long-range sensors revealed a surprising message. A report sent to other systems, describing humanity as a species unlike any other. The message emphasized intelligence, creativity, courage, and unity. Across the galaxy, species would now view humans with curiosity and respect. In private quarters, Korath spoke to his council. "We have encountered many species," he said, "but none like this. They are unpredictable, inventive, and fearless. They respond to danger with cleverness, and they do so together. I recommend that we treat them not as a threat, but as a species to respect and perhaps to learn from." Vorith nodded. It is rare to see a species whose strength lies not in technology alone, but in spirit and imagination. Humans have shown us that courage, creativity, and unity can rival even the greatest weapons. On Earth, life began to settle into a new rhythm. Scientists continued to innovate, learning from the brief but profound interaction with the alien fleet. Engineers refined drones and satellite systems, turning what had been tools of observation and defense into instruments of beauty and exploration. Children dreamed of space adventures, inspired by the knowledge that humans had faced the impossible and prevailed through ingenuity and spirit. The media chronicled every event, highlighting human achievements and the lessons learned. News anchors, teachers, and parents emphasized the importance of creativity, collaboration, and courage. Humans had not only survived, but had reshaped the galaxy's perception of their species. In laboratories, new experiments began. Inspired by the alien fleet's technology, scientists created devices that could interact with space in imaginative ways. Holographic mapping systems, advanced drones, and energy reflectors became tools not of war, but of exploration, art, and science. Humans had turned an encounter that could have been terrifying into a platform for progress. Children, inspired by the fleet, built small flying robots that imitated their own designs, inventing games that combined problem-solving and teamwork. Adults organized challenges and competitions, fostering innovation at every level. Humanity had turned a potential threat into a cosmic classroom, teaching lessons in ingenuity and collaboration. Even the aliens, observing from afar, continued to monitor Earth for a time. They marveled at humans' ability to adapt and innovate without aggression. Reports sent across the galaxy highlighted a new principle: intelligence and creativity, when combined with unity and courage, could make even a small species formidable. The first contact, which had begun as an intimidation, ended as a demonstration of humanity's unique qualities. Across the stars, humans gained a reputation that was unprecedented. They were not just survivors, they were innovators, creators, and thinkers who faced challenges with laughter, intelligence, and courage. On Earth, celebrations continued for days. People shared stories, recordings, and experiences, creating a global archive of creativity and ingenuity. Artists recreated holographic displays, engineers wrote papers on adaptive systems, and children drew pictures of humans interacting with the alien fleet. President Martinez addressed the world one final time. "We have proven that strength is not only measured by force but by intelligence, courage, and unity. Humanity's greatest achievements come from creativity, cooperation, and spirit. Today we are not just survivors. Today we are an example to the galaxy." As the fleet disappeared into the void, Humans continued to look toward the stars, inspired by the encounter. They knew that one day the galaxy might return and that day might bring new challenges. But they were ready. Not with weapons alone, but with courage. Intelligence, creativity, and the ability to face the unknown with a smile. In the coming years, humans would become known across the galaxy as a species to watch. Unpredictable, inventive, and courageous. Other civilizations would approach with curiosity, respect, and caution, knowing that humans could turn any challenge into an opportunity. And for humanity itself, the encounter left a lasting lesson. The universe was vast and full of unknowns, but with ingenuity, collaboration, and courage, there was nothing that could not be met. Laughter, intelligence, and creativity were as powerful as any fleet, shield, or weapon. The solar system returned to its quiet rhythm, but humanity's reputation had expanded beyond the stars. Humans had faced the impossible, turned fear into laughter, and transformed potential intimidation into admiration. They had not only survived, they had set a new standard for what it meant to be remarkable. Somewhere in the galaxy, species whispered about humans, sharing the story of a small, vibrant world that laughed in the face of the greatest fleet in history. And on Earth, children played, scientists innovated, and people looked up at the stars with confidence. Humanity had earned its place in the galaxy, not through fear or conquest, but through courage, creativity, and the unbreakable human spirit. The story of the fleet's arrival ended not in destruction or defeat, but in respect, admiration, and the promise of a bright future. Humans had laughed when the galaxy tried to intimidate them, and in that laughter they had become legends. The stars were calm that night. In the black expanse of space, the colony of Arden Prime glimmered like a tiny jewel. Humans had settled here only a decade ago, turning the rocky, distant planet into a thriving community. Cities rose from the soil, farms stretched across valleys, and satellites buzzed silently above. Life was quiet, even hopeful. For many, the galaxy seemed vast, but humanity was learning to make it home. Commander Aaron Solis watched the colony's surface from her ship's observation deck. She was not stationed on Arden Prime permanently, but she had been sent to supervise the annual supply and defense review. Aaron had a reputation, brilliant, bold, and unafraid to challenge authority when she saw a better plan. Yet tonight she felt something unusual, a restlessness that she could not name. Suddenly the quiet was shattered. Sensors on her ship blinked furiously. A small, flashing red light appeared on her console. Aaron leaned forward, her eyes narrowing. The colony's automated communications array had detected something, a massive fleet approaching, and they were moving fast. "They're not from any human system," her communications officer said, voice tight. "No transponders. Nothing matches known records. They're alien." Aaron's heart pounded. Humans had encountered alien life before, but never anything this aggressive. The fleet was enormous, dark shapes blocking the stars as they moved like shadows over Arden Prime. "Prepare the alert," she ordered. "Get me the governor of Arden Prime on the line. We need every civilian to evacuate to shelters immediately." Panic rippled through the colony as alarms rang out. Families hurried through the streets carrying whatever they could. Emergency vehicles raced to coordinate evacuations. But it was clear. Arden Prime was unprepared for an attack on this scale. The approaching fleet was not interested in diplomacy. On her ship, Aaron called the United Earth Federation Command. "This is Commander Solis of the 7th Fleet. We have incoming hostiles. Large numbers. Unknown species. Request immediate support." There was a long pause on the other end. Then a calm voice replied, "Solis, we are aware. Support fleets are en route, but they are still hours away. You must hold the colony as long as possible." Hours were too long. Aaron knew that. She took a deep breath, her mind racing. "Understood. I'll do what I can." The alien ships drew closer, their engines glowing faintly like cold embers in the dark. And then, without warning, the first volley struck. Energy beams cut through the sky, turning buildings to ash and igniting fires across the surface. Arden Prime was screaming. Aaron's ship shuddered as it took a glancing hit from one of the alien projectiles. Crew members scrambled to repair systems and return fire, but the aliens were fast, precise, and merciless. This was not a raid. It was an extermination. Yet even in the chaos, humans did not falter. Pilots launched from nearby hangars in small fighters, attempting daring maneuvers to strike at the alien ships. Engineers on the ground rigged old mining lasers into makeshift defenses. Civilians carried wounded to shelters and helped extinguish fires. There was fear, but also determination. Humans did not give up, not here, not ever. Amid the destruction, a single message was sent. From the colony's main communications tower, a technician typed furiously, broadcasting across subspace. "This is Arden Prime. Colony under attack. Unknown alien fleet. We are overwhelmed. Send help immediately. Humanity needs aid. This is our cry of desperation." The words echoed through the void, reaching command centers, nearby colonies, and listening posts. Somewhere among the stars, humans listened, and the cry would not go unanswered. As the alien fleet continued its assault, Aaron coordinated a counter-strategy. They could not defeat these ships head-on. They were too large, too advanced. But humans had one advantage: ingenuity. Aaron ordered her team to use the asteroid belt nearby as cover, leading small squadrons of fighters in unpredictable, twisting paths. The aliens, relying on strict patterns and precision, struggled to anticipate the moves. Fighter pilots risked everything, weaving through rocks and debris, launching small but effective attacks. Even a single hit on the alien ships caused panic among their ranks. Humans were clever, adaptable, and bold, qualities the aliens seemed not to understand. On the ground, Arden Prime civilians fought too. Mining vehicles were transformed into armored carriers. Schools became shelters and command posts. Everyone contributed in some way, no matter how small. Aaron watched it all through her ship's cameras. Pride mingled with the fear gnawing at her chest. Humanity was under siege, but they were alive, resisting, surviving. Hours passed. The alien fleet was relentless, but so were the humans. And then something unexpected happened. A smaller group of alien ships broke away from the main fleet, approaching the colony directly. It was a gamble, and Aaron knew what it meant. They were testing defenses, probing for weaknesses. She acted quickly. "Target the lead ship," she ordered. "Fire everything we've got at once. If we can take it down, maybe we can slow them for just long enough for reinforcements to arrive." The human fleet responded with everything it had. Energy beams, missiles, improvised explosives, all aimed at the alien lead. For a moment, silence. Then the ship faltered, sparks flying across its hull. The aliens did not expect resistance, and it showed. But victory was only temporary. The aliens regrouped, their formations tighter, their attacks more brutal. Arden Prime continued to burn. Fires raged across cities, smoke rising like dark clouds into the thin atmosphere. The human defenders were exhausted, battered, but still fighting. In the command room of her ship, Aaron felt the weight of the responsibility. Every life lost mattered. Every strategy chosen could mean the difference between survival and annihilation. And yet she also felt something else, the spark of humanity's spirit. In the face of fear and destruction, humans did not give in. They adapted. They innovated. They fought, and this, Aaron realized, was the first step. This attack, this cry of desperation, would not mark the end of humanity. It would mark the beginning of something greater. Somewhere across the galaxy, humans were listening. Somewhere, plans were being made, reinforcements prepared. The furious response had already begun, even if no one realized it yet. As the alien fleet continued its assault, Arden Prime's people worked tirelessly. Every hit they took, every loss they suffered strengthened their resolve. The colony was small, vulnerable, and isolated, but it was human. And humans were never truly defenseless. By the time the first reinforcements reached the outskirts of Arden Prime, the colony had already proved itself. Civilians and soldiers alike had held off the alien advance long enough to save crucial infrastructure. Though scarred, Arden Prime had survived the initial onslaught, and the galaxy had heard humanity's cry. Commander Aaron Solis looked out over the burning surface, the stars glinting through smoke and ash. She clenched her fist, determination hardening in her eyes. "This is only the beginning," she said softly. "The galaxy will know who we are." And somewhere, far beyond the reaches of Arden Prime, the humans who had heard the desperate call began to move. Scientists hurried to complete advanced starships. Military strategists studied the alien threat. Citizens volunteered in record numbers. Humanity was readying itself for the furious response that would change the galaxy forever. The stars were no longer calm. A storm was coming. But this storm was human, and it would not be denied.